All right, so let's move on to the new topics that you wanted to discuss. And it was around successes with having clients create their own buyer guides and stuff like that. Can you describe what you mean by that?
Yeah, sure. So buyer's guide being a mid to low funnel piece of content, right? So not all the way down the funnel to a category page or a product, not all the way up funnel to like a blog post, but that's sort of what Google calls the messy middle area, which is, it looks and feels like a piece of content. So it might live in the blog or it might be an article, but it's very transactional in nature. And it aligns to that sort of messy middle area of keywords. And what I found that's very interesting, and what I've been thinking of as like hidden keywords in my mind, is these buyer's guides in some industries and scenarios rank for what I thought were the bottom funnel, like by product name,
right,
or like something for sale. But the buyer's guides sometimes outrank and drive way more traffic than I ever expected, because there was not, setting out at the beginning of creating them, there was not a obvious keyword where I was like, oh, this is totally gonna rank for like how to buy X, or like, you know, the best thing of X or whatever. They just started ranking for like the actual bottom funnel, like product searches and category searches. So they seem to serve this, again, that sort of messy middle research area of people browsing and trying to look for like options of products.
So for specifically, I guess an example would be Best Buy have a whole TV section.
Yeah.
And obviously the category pages are targeting TV, HD TVs, 4K TVs, maybe sizes of TVs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
These buyer guides would probably be more or like the 2021 version of what's the best 4K TV you could buy for your family versus for your office and stuff like that.
Yeah, and even like in some product categories, I've noticed is like precious metals is an e-commerce category I've worked with for a while with a client. And a lot of people search for the best way to buy gold, the best places to buy gold, how to buy gold. So if you have a product where there's that lot, like people need a lot of information,
right,
and there's a lot of research that goes into it, I mean, that's like a really great scenario for these buyer's guides. Of course, not every product fits into that, but when it does, that's a really great spot for these buyer's guides as well. So you want to try to find your space where you fit in between like the wire cutters of the world and then, like I said, your category pages. So there's this kind of like sweet spot in that.
So are you creating a buyer guide for each of those scenarios? Where to buy, how to buy?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, it's surprising how, even though Google said they were gonna reduce SERP clutter and like take away the instances where like the domains are showing up 2, 3, 4 times, they're still doing that all of the time, right? So I even have some clients where their buyer's guides rank and their category pages rank in the same SERP. And even a blog post in some cases too. So I'm seeing very much less cannibalization or no cannibalization. Can't say that word.
Cannibalization, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a podcaster, I promise. I just can't talk apparently.
It's a 3-hour drive, so yeah.
But I'm seeing Google not like consider those cannibalizing one another when you have different intents, even if it's the same topic.
And how these pages, maybe I'm asking you too much, but these pages, how are they constructed? You have your content.
Yep.
You might have those buyer guides might link to category pages.
Yep.
And they also might link to your top product pages.
And they have product widgets right on the page.
Right. Buy here, buttons.
Yeah, like, well, the actual product widget. Yeah, with the buy button, the picture. Like, so I think of them as hybrid product or category and informational pages. And users seem to really like these and want them. And they've worked really well. And another example, like, it doesn't have to be a physical product. So I have another client working in insurance. And they haven't finished creating the content yet, but I'm seeing a huge opportunity for like the best type of insurance for a physical therapist or something like that. And the thing is you can't find a keyword for that. It's just insurance for physical therapist. But when you post these things, they just start ranking for the actual product intent search. So that's what I mean by hidden keywords. And the other interesting thing I found with these, especially with the precious metal site, once we started posting them, all the buyer's guides started ranking for buy keywords. All of their category and product pages started ranking better for sale keywords without them even touching those pages.
Interesting.
It's kind of like Google went, okay, now we understand where everything fits in the site and how to make sense of it. We've got our buy intent keywords here now with the buyer's guides. Now let's elevate the for sale pages because this site is filling that funnel, like the whole funnel from information to buyer's guides to category pages and product pages.
Right. So historically, I guess, if you were looking at this type of strategy, back in the old days, what we have is faceted navigation, where we create these types of category pages that have filters on them.
Yeah.
You try to get indexed for variations of buy insurance for this location and this type. So buy New York insurance for your motorcycle.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of going to like, those pages don't necessarily rank as well for the buy types of keywords. So what you're doing is you're creating these what you call buyer guides that kind of has a lot more content on it.
Yeah.
A lot more how-to, more information that's actually useful outside of just listing out all the products, and then trying to rank those buyer guides for that purpose.
Yeah.
Would it make sense to potentially rebuild your category pages, your faceted breakdowns of those category pages, to be these types of buyer guide types of landing pages?
Maybe.
Have you tried it?
I think users react better to what looks like information in an article. So this category pages, they look like e-commerce category pages.
Right.
Yeah. So we've tried a little bit of that. So one interesting thing on the flip side is, so this precious metals client, they had category pages with lots of information. You've seen them, like the ones with 2,000 words below the product listings.
Right.
We tested removing literally every word from below that, and the rankings did not change.
Oh, yeah, I wonder, because it used to be the old-fashioned classic thing. Just add content to the bottom of the page so it doesn't affect the user experience for that category page. Right. It doesn't make a difference because Google knows about it.
I mean, we ran Hotjar and saw literally nobody was scrolling.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, nobody's looking at the content. We actually moved that content to just a blog post.
Right.
And that blog post is now ranking for stuff.
Even long-term.
Yeah, long-term. Yeah. So it's like, sometimes you might have the right content, but in the wrong place on your site. So,
are these category pages ranking anymore in general?
Yeah.
They are. They still are ranking. Even
all the category pages are still ranking. Yeah.
Even but not for competitive keywords necessarily.
What's that?
Not for necessarily competitive keywords.
For competitive keywords. Yeah.
Interesting.
We just moved all the content off because it's like Google, I was seeing users weren't looking at it. So I'm like, well, Google, I don't know if Google tries to figure that out, but maybe they do that through machine learning. Like they just know what a good category page across different verticals is.
But like you said, the intent of that the intent for the people searching for that category pages is different than the intent for the buyer guides.
Yes.
And having both is something that's obviously a double whammy for a lot of sites, including blog posts and so forth. So you have 3, 4, 5 listings in the Google search results for all those types of keyword phrases.
Yep.
Interesting. And that's what you're calling hidden keywords, and so forth, because there are diverse variation of those types of keywords. So how do you decide at what point do you need to take a category page and say, I need a buyer guide or X number of buyer guides for this page?
Yeah, I think if anybody's in an industry where they're seeing, shopping, browsing, research for a certain product, then you could consider creating a buyer's guide. This is where I went against my normal logic, and I didn't find search volume per se, but just by creating them. So my original thought was creating them was going to help their category pages rank better, but I never thought the buyer's guides were directly going to get this much traffic, but they do, which is crazy. So any vertical where people do any amount of research or there's any education whatsoever, I mean, maybe there's some products that there aren't, like a pair of white socks or something like that, but I think most products have a little bit of room for some education around them.
And where do you start? So how many do you say, this category page, I'm gonna go ahead and make 6 how-to buyer guides on it, or you start with 1 and then expand?
Yeah, I mean, whatever the company, that's a business decision or a marketing decision, but I mean, I started with 2 or 3 with this one particular client. And when they started working, I said, wow, this is working really well. Let's build them out for similar categories. And then we even went in deeper to specific coins as well. So we started with like a silver buyer guide, but now we're in like American Silver Eagle buyer guide.
Right.
Yeah. Because that just started ranking for Buy American Silver Eagle. And I'm like, wow, let's do that for every coin that's so popular.
Right. I mean, I guess it makes sense because if you think about it, the category, faceted navigation, filters are all automated, and they could generate almost an infinite number of pages, technically.
Yeah.
Obviously, a good SEO will make sure that it doesn't generate an infinite number of pages because that causes issues for Google.
Yep.
But when you're making these buyer guides, those are all somewhat manual. You're not automating that process for the most part. You might be including the widgets for buy now stuff in an automated fashion.
Yeah.
But you're not automating the content development of those.
Yeah, the content is 1,000% custom.
Right.
Yeah.
So the question is is there a number? Is it like 5% of the options that you give Google on your category pages? Is that the number of buyer guides you should have? Is it 10%? Is it like just do it slowly and see what happens?
Do it slowly. I'm gonna have this particular kind and others just create them until literally they stop, working. And yeah, obviously they all need to be high quality. So, I mean, we're building all my principles for informational content I'm putting into these, like topical completeness, sentiment, putting the direct answer at the top, like making it functional and aesthetic. So like taking everything I've learned from doing informational content and putting them into the buyer's guide. So like if somebody wants to build these and just like throw them together, that's probably not going to work too well because we're really, really precise and careful about it.
And you are optimizing these buyer guides for feature snippets as well, it sounds like?
No, I don't do featured snippet optimization whatsoever. I just kind of like, Google's going to they're going to be fleeting. Google's going to take them away at some point, or like we're not going to get them as much.
Do they tend to rank for feature snippets?
Yeah.
You think the majority are like feature snippet worthy?
Yeah, and a few of these have picked up evergreen traffic in Google Discover, which is a whole other topic. But I've been so adamant about Google Discover for well over a year, for like 18 months, because a lot of people think it's news or like timely.
Products do show up in Google Discover.
Products can.
It's rare. It's not as often as news items, but it does happen. Interesting, especially if somebody loves. Like I'm a big Apple fanboy. Like you can see here.